Thanks to the efforts of Congressman Frey and others, the Lou Frey Institute promotes civic education and citizenship nationwide, particularly here in Florida, with an eye toward bipartisanship, civic knowledge, and civility, which are critical to our political culture and our role in it today. I now invite Dr. Adrian Otto Frey, Associate Vice President and Dean of Students for Student Development and Enrollment Services here at UCF, who will extend our formal UCF welcome. Welcome, Dr. Frey.
Good evening. Tonight, our panel will talk about a subject that's important to both success and quality of life. Housing is truly essential to the success of individuals here in Southern Florida, and it's a daily part of our campus experience at UCF. But it's only the first step in creating an inclusive community for our students to thrive. We know housing is a crucial component of success for our Knights, and that's why we work to provide living and learning communities and supportive environments for our students, because we know it contributes to their overall well-being. At UCF, we provide more than 10,000 students with housing on 3 of our campuses. And while it is so important to us, and why is it so important to us? Because living on campus enables better engagement for our students, which means those students who live on campus do better in their studies. Students who live on campus housing have higher first-year retention rates and stay in college at rates higher than those who live somewhere else. Students living on campus housing graduate faster when we compare them to their on-campus peers for both 4-year and 6-year graduation rates. But we know that living in campus housing is just the beginning, which is why we offer abundant resources, services, and opportunities that can positively impact the students' well-being. Just steps away from our residence halls, our Knights have quick access to classes and study spaces. They can meet up with friends, or a bite to eat, work out in a recreation center, or join in a renewal team. Be seen by healthcare professionals, or take advantage of sporting events and live entertainment. You see, campus housing at UCF is more than just a roof over their heads while students here at UCF. The connections created in these places are what strengthen our community and build brighter futures and lifelong friendships for our students. Because when students live in campus housing, they bolster the inclusive community that supports their success today, and they make an impact on the success of students in the future. I look forward to hearing from our panel tonight on this critical topic.
Thank you, Dr. Frey. Tonight's town hall participants include Representative Eskamani, who was elected to the Florida House of Representatives representing District 47 in 2018, and Representative Guillermo Smith, who was elected to represent Florida House District 49 in 2016. We also welcome Commissioner Emily Bonilla, who has served on the Orange County Commission representing Commission District 5 since her 2016 election. Representative Eskamani, Representative Smith, and Commissioner Bonilla each graduated from UCF. Our panel also includes Mr. Oren J. Henry, Director of the Housing and Community Development Department for the City of Orlando, and Mr. A.J. Rames, UCF Assistant Vice President for Neighborhood Relations and Safety Education. In addition to our esteemed panel, we welcome many special guests this evening, including Ms. Katie Seymour, who is an active community and international volunteer, a UCF ambassador, and coincidentally for the name you could guess, she is also married to our interim president, Thad Seymour Jr. Mr. Ronald Nesbitt, Vice President of Risk Management for McCoy Federal Credit Union. Did you recognize? Mr. Peter Mitchell, Director of the UCF Office of Housing Administration and Finance. Dr. Stephen Maseda, Interim Executive Director of the Lou Frey Institute, and our esteemed host and organizer, Ms. Sheena Parks, who is the accounting coordinator for the Lou Frey Institute, along with Laura Stevenson, who also serves as the executive assistant to our executive director. Thank you, Sheena and Laura, for organizing such an excellent program. Each of our panelists will provide a brief 5-minute overview of their perspectives on affordable housing in Central Florida, after which we will open the floor for questions. Panelists are welcome to share their opening remarks from the podium or their seats. I see you have microphones. You may wish to stay seated. And we will begin with Mr. Oren Henry from the City of Orlando. Mr. Henry.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Thank you. It's my honor to be here tonight representing the City of Orlando. And it's really refreshing to see so many people interested in our housing issues. Sometimes we start thinking we're the only ones that are worried about it. I know better now. We get a lot of calls every day. Anyway, I just want to give a brief overview of some of the things that I think are important. And they're going to apply to students, because even if you're having difficulty as a student with housing now, you're going to have difficulty when you graduate trying to find housing as you start moving forward in your career. So I just want to give a little data on Orlando and talk about a couple of things that are kind of important to me. There are about 116,000 households in Orlando. If you break that down, for folks who earn less than $20,000, that's 19% of those households. And those folks, 92% of them are cost burden. And when I say cost burden, it means they are paying more than 30% of their income for rent and utilities for their house payment, and utilities and taxes. And the thing is, it's not like they're paying 33 or 34%. A lot of them are paying over 50% of their income. And if you're earning less than $20,000, that's just extremely difficult, and throw in transportation costs, which is another story. But then 17% of our households earn $20,000 to $35,000, but 84% of them are cost burden. And then even people $35,000 to $50,000, over half of them, 52% of them are cost burden. Obviously, they can deal with it a little better than someone under 20,000, but this represents over half of our population here in the community. One of the things I find really interesting these days is that we build two types of houses in it. We build single-family homes, and the thing that was known as a starter home, builders don't build that anymore. We kind of start out with mid-level or even mansions, and on up, that's what home builders are building. Or they build 100 and 200 unit apartment complexes. You don't see duplexes, you don't see triplexes, you don't see 4 units or 10 units or 20. It's real interesting to see that, and that has an effect on our housing costs. The household size has changed in our society quite a bit, and particularly in Orlando, 67% of our households live in one or two family units, and the average household size is 2.29 people. But a thing that I rarely find, and this just kind of gives you an idea of how some of these problems have developed. In 1950, the average home size in the United States was 978 square feet. So about 272 square feet per person, because we had 3.5 people average living in a house. But today, where we have 2.5, the average new home size is 2,640 square feet. So over 1,000 square feet per person. So we have per person now as much house as the whole family lived in 1950. And obviously, there's a huge cost for that. This is one of the most dramatic stats that I have for Orlando, and that is that in 2010, 40% of our population lived in their own home. They were homeowners. And that's what I think the national average is in the low 60s. And even in Orange County, it's in the 60s. But in the city, it was 40%. But I don't even have data up to 2019. The newest data up to 2016, that has dropped to 35%. 5 percentage points. That's just seismic how quickly that number has dropped. And then, of course, that means that our rentals have gone from 60% to 65%, putting more demand on the existing stock that we have. And that, of course, means scarcity, which means landlords can charge more. So I've given all doom and gloom, but we have to look at this for the positives, because we're a growing community. There are jobs here. There are people moving here. People want to live here. It's a great community. So it's just a challenge that we have to deal with. And at the city, we're committed to identifying opportunities, partnering and investing in housing for all solutions. And we're looking at the following areas. With rental, we want to increase the inventory of rental housing for extremely low and moderate income families and individuals. We want to increase home ownership. We want to improve the existing housing stabilization. We do a lot of rehab, and we need to modify our regulations. In the last 5 years, we've invested or committed over $36 million here in the city, and that's just the city's portion of projects. Doesn't count things like tax credits and things that we leverage. Orange County is completing a new task force. This is an initiative that we worked with them that came out last year. They have news coming out middle of next month, which will have much better data, and will be the next steps. And then lastly, since we have some people here from the state, I just want to talk about the State Housing Trust Fund. In fiscal 15, the city received $1,200,000, 16 $1,600,000, 17 $1,000,001, 18 $375,000, and this year $394,000. And if the city was receiving the funding that the trust fund is, the original formula is supposed to provide, we'd be getting $3.4 million instead of $394,000. And the county would be getting about $12 or $13 million. So I think we can find some resources to help us deal with the issue. Thank you for listening to my
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Our panel discussion continues with Representative Eskamani. As Representative Eskamani has another commitment shortly, she will not be able to take questions during the town hall portion of our session. However, you are welcome to contact her office about these issues if you would like. Representative Eskamani.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. How are we doing? How are we doing? Right. It's great to be on the main campus. Again, my name is Oren Eskamani, proud UCF grad, not once but twice, now getting my PhD over at the downtown campus. I also wanted to express my love and gratitude to the Seymour family and to the Frey family. A lot of legends have been lost this week, and so we have big shoes to fill. With that said, the issue of homelessness is a big one that impacts each and every one of us. I actually grew up in Orlando on this side of town, and my family always struggled to afford housing, food, just basic necessities. I'm the daughter of working class immigrants from Iran, and my dad actually went to UCF in '94 while waiting tables. And even once he became electrical engineer on the weekdays, he worked at Walt Disney World as a customer service rep on the weekends to make ends meet. And then our mom had a degree from Iran she couldn't use, so she worked at fast food jobs, eventually at Kmart, before she passed away to cancer in 2004. So that's my personal narrative that brings me to you today. It's why this issue is really important to us. And I do want to give a shout out to the event organizers. She actually attended a town hall that we did on affordable housing in our district back in May. And District 47, for those who don't know, we encompass downtown Orlando, Winter Park, and Belle Isle. So we don't have the main campus at UCF, but I'm really excited that our event helped to catalyze this one and that you can have this conversation with a focus specifically on students and the needs of our college campus environments. We know that Central Florida is in an affordable housing crisis. Oren outlined some of the statistics around that. And specifically to college students, and I know Representative Smith will tackle alongside Commissioner Bonilla, the latest FAFSA data we have said anywhere from 53,000 students, including 3,500 in Florida, are homeless. And we're sure that number is probably underreported because there also is a lot of discrepancy on what does it mean to be homeless. A homeless student could be sleeping on someone's couch, so they might not think they're homeless homeless, but really they are. UCF has taken a lot of steps to try to mitigate the direction towards homelessness, but also the services around that, like the UCF Food Pantry, which I remember as a graduate student really seeing that blossom become available to students. But I think there's a myth that if you can afford tuition, then you're not homeless. And I think we need to dismantle that and realize that there's probably homeless students in this room right now. There's families who have been homeless before the student came to this campus, so maybe if they have a home, they're worrying about their parents who struggle with housing. And so it's all part of this greater network that impacts the student experience, because how can you focus on your academics when you don't have a roof over your head? How can you focus on your extracurricular activities when you're worried about how your parents are going to pay their bills? And so it all ties back down to achievement and ensuring that you actually leave this campus with a degree next to your name. With that said, I just want to speak to a few efforts we've taken as a lawmaker in Tallahassee to address this. There are some common threads I think you'll see tonight. One of them was the Affordable Housing Trust Funds we just talked about. To give you background to this issue, the Florida legislature has time and time again rated these affordable housing trust dollars that should be used for affordable housing development. I know we have some of those developers in the room tonight as well. We're talking about $325 million that should be allocated toward affordable housing, but is used to fund other budget holes, which I know you'll dive deeper into tonight. And that's been a major ask for myself and other lawmakers to stop raiding those funds as a legislature. The voters wanted to stay in affordable housing. It's a big issue for us in our district, with especially Orlando, growing as a rental community, that we need to ensure that affordable housing options are available and the money for it stays within that fund. Other ways that we try to tackle this issue is absolutely talk about renters and renters' rights, which can be a little controversial, I will say, but Florida is a very landlord-friendly state. There's not a lot of renters' rights here in Florida, and actually things like rent control, rent stabilization, which again are controversial and deserve debate, can't even be debated because the state has preempted them. Which means if you're a local municipality wanting to pilot rent control for students, rent control for teachers, rent control for firefighters, they can't do that because it's been preempted. So we've actually filed legislation to repeal part of that preemption. It would still require a very extreme housing situation and an election for rent control to be piloted, but we removed some of the preemptive measures, at least make it possible to be tried by local city or government. And so that's a bill that we refiled this session. To be honest, the chance of it passing is close to zero in this body of the Florida legislature, but we want to have the conversation of that we have to prioritize the needs of renters. There are many cases where my colleagues, our colleagues, talk about property rights, they don't talk about renters' rights. And I think as a renter myself, as renters in this space, like we have to ensure that that's not left out of the conversation. Some other creative solutions that we've talked about, it was mentioned duplexes or triplexes. At a local level, there have been efforts to rezone to allow those type of home and ADUs, accessibility dwelling units, to be more readily available. We've been big fans of tiny homes, and we actually sponsored a bill last session to define tiny homes in Florida law, with the hope that the Florida Building Commission would adopt some safety regulation around tiny homes that could lead to local governments bring in their own ordinances. Of course, our bill did not get a hearing, but I'll tell you something that's funny about Tallahassee is that sometimes good ideas do pass, but your name just won't be on it. And so, as an example, the Florida Building Commission has now adopted tiny home Appendix Q, which is one of the best definitions of tiny homes, the one that was in our bill. It'll be adopted to the 2020 building code, looking at December 2020. And this legislative session during committee meetings, the committee that should have heard our bill actually did a panel discussion on tiny homes. So I like to think that we planted that seed, even if we couldn't be the ones to actually water it as much. And so I am hopeful that as we see communities like the Dwellings in Tallahassee, the Dwellings is a low-income tiny home community that people do still pay rent there, but it's designed to be low threshold. So if you are rent burdened right now, which means more than a third of your annual income is going towards rent, you could qualify to live in this low-income community, which also includes wraparound social services, a kitchen that's accessible to you, training opportunities so you can advance your economic status. And I do think approaches like that to try to provide a support to folks who are either homeless or on the brink of homelessness to actually have an environment that they can thrive in and be supported long term. And so with that, really, really excited this conversation is happening. As Dr. Fine mentioned, one of my former professors, you're welcome to email us. I know Lauren Cooper from our team is here, and she put flyers on the back of the check-in table. So grab it. We're also online on it for Florida, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Keep in touch with us. I have to run to a town hall about transportation now, back in our district, but I know you're in very, very, very good hands with these incredible panelists and ask tough questions. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Representative Eskamani, and we will see you at our next event. We will now continue with state government, and we will be hearing from Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. I'm Carlos Guillermo Smith, and I am a proud class of 2003 UCF alumnus. Go Knights, charge on. So I want to tell you a little bit about me, and well, actually first, some thank yous real quick. Want to thank Representative Eskamani for traveling from her downtown-based district to come out here to be part of a conversation, because really she's been my partner in crime up in Tallahassee when it comes to talking about important affordable housing issues and the crisis that we're seeing not only in Orlando, but across the state and across the country. I also want to offer my condolences to the Seymour family as well, and to the Frey family. You know, this has been a really, really tough week for the UCF community, a tough couple of weeks, and just want to send my solidarity and my thoughts and prayers. You know, actually having conversations like this with political leaders and understanding how local, state, and federal government all work together to solve solutions is part of Lou Frey's legacy here at UCF. So I think it's a great tribute to him that we are having this conversation today. So I represent the East Orlando area in the Florida House of Representatives. I was elected in 2016. Our district includes Waterford Lakes, University Boulevard, UCF, Lake Pickett, so a little bit further east from UCF, as well as the Rio Pinar area as well. I live in Union Park, actually not too far from here. I went to school at UCF as a student between 1999 and 2003. Some of my student housing experiences are a little different than they are right now. I mean, I really hate to say that I went to school a really, really long time ago at UCF, but that's kind of the reality. But I moved into off-campus, I lived in off-campus, official off-campus housing for all 4 years that I was a student at UCF. When I was a freshman, I moved into what was then called Jefferson Commons. It's not called that anymore, but it's right across the street from the Bank of America. That's right there on Alafaya Boulevard. And then my last 2 years at UCF, I lived at the Village of Alafaya Club, which was also off-student housing. The common thread for so many of those developers then of student housing as it is today was these types of student housing developments. They were very heavy on amenities. Amenities, tennis courts, tanning beds, swimming pools. Oh my goodness, there were all these amenities, which really catered a lot to students from wealthier families that were looking more for amenities and lifestyle accommodations than they were to, you know, matching the realities of what happens when students go to the university. They're here to study. and actually focus on their academics. So I'm curious, I'm hearing back from students on, you know, what some of their obstacles and struggles are with finding affordable housing generally. Actually, in my last year at UCF, when I was a senior, this is back in 2003, I survived an gay hate crime, also in off-campus housing, then at Knight's Crossing, now Knight's Circle. Interesting story. I know that security and safety in campus and off-campus housing is still really important now as it was back then. And what's interesting is that it feels like it was a long time ago, but tonight we have a reporter from West News, Gail Pascal Brown, who actually covered that story when that happened off campus here at UCF. And she's been doing incredible work as a veteran reporter on all issues, including affordable housing. So I'm really glad that West is represented here with Gail Pascal Brown. There's so many issues that interact with student housing and affordable housing generally. We understand and know that what we're seeing is many students are beginning to pay more for housing than they are paying for tuition. We understand here in East Orlando, and I know that Commissioner Bonilla will agree, that transportation also interacts with affordable housing, particularly for students. Sometimes it's really, really hard and challenging to get out here to the main campus if you live somewhere a bit further, so transportation can be an issue that leaves a lot to be desired, and Alafaya and University Boulevard were never built or equipped to be considered to be in the middle of this large, thriving university that we have now. They were meant really to be mini highways, especially Alafaya Trail, when it was first constructed, and it's become unsafe for pedestrians, which is another issue. But also what we understand is that students are dealing with lack of short-term housing. You are ready to graduate and you are looking for a month-to-month rental, and you can't find it everywhere that you find. Everyone that you talk to is offering 12-month leases, which is not working. You try to move into residential areas, and you have HOAs here locally who prohibit students from even being able to live in their residence. So, there's obstacles and struggles there that we want to hear more about. But what are the three main reasons for why students can't find affordable housing? Well, low income, so that the income is part of the problem itself. Florida's minimum wage is $8.46 per hour, which is a starvation wage. So we have to talk about wage stagnation as part of this issue. We also know that just looking around the campus area in East Orlando, there's just not units that are considered affordable housing. And for those that could take a HUD voucher, because students who make below a certain income in some cases could qualify for a housing choice voucher from the federal government, we find out that the landlords and the apartment complexes are discriminating against individuals who have these housing choice vouchers and not letting them apply, saying, no, we don't take these housing vouchers, sorry, you're on your own, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of those different types of programs as well. We also know that students deal with their own issues and their own struggles, sometimes related to their parents or their families, and there may be a specific reason for why they cannot be going to school while living at home. I know for me, one of the number one reasons I had to leave home and not go to school while living at my parents' house was because I was LGBTQ, I was not out to my parents, and continuing my post-secondary education after high school graduation while living at their house was not really an option for me because of acceptance reasons. God bless you. So there's so many different issues that we're dealing with. Let me give you a couple headlines though, because you have to understand, I know I gotta wrap this up, and we're gonna get to these in depth in just a moment. Representative Eskamani mentioned the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Every year on average, we have just over $300 million in the state's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and the legislature steals hundreds of millions of dollars out of that fund to go pay for other things not related to housing. That has to stop because we have a crisis, and we're going to talk about that more in detail. This year, the legislature passed a bill that restricts the ability of local governments to be able to be part of the affordable housing solution and offer incentives to developers. It restricted their ability to do it, and also said that if you sue a developer and you lose in court, that you have to pay the legal and litigation fines and fees for yourself and for the developer, which of course discourages lawsuits. There's so much to talk about tonight, but I'm not here with all of these solutions. I have some ideas on how to address these problems, but I really want to hear from you. I want to hear from students. We really want questions and comments about what obstacles you're facing in trying to find affordable student housing, so that we can together as a community come up with proposals, whether they are at the local level or at the state level, to address this ongoing crisis. So thank you all for having me. Go Knights.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. So we are going to be now listening to our last speaker before we open the floor for our town hall format, and we truly are going to be bringing it back home. We are now going to be hearing from our Assistant Vice President, A.J. Range, who will give a narrow UCF focus to the issue. Vice President Range.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Much better. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fine. I appreciate the opportunity to be present and to offer some comments. I want to thank our distinguished panelists for comments and thoughts so far. I'm grateful. This is a nice lead-in to my office and to what we are seeking to do here at UCF. I'm just delighted to have been invited to be on this panel and to offer some comments. Now, to add some context and parameters and focus to my comments and remarks, it might be helpful and beneficial for all of us, for me to explain and note several key things. I want to talk about my office's purpose, mission, function, and goals. That will probably give you a good overview of the office and mission. Neighborhood Relations and Safe Education is a small yet active department within the unit of the Office of Dean of Students in the Division of Student Development and Enrollment Services here at UCF. Our purpose is to undergird, support, and assist in the teaching, research, and service mission of the university. Our mission is to create and cultivate an innovative and inclusive learning experience that helps students reach their academic, personal, and professional aspirations, to advocate for social awareness and change, and to support lifelong learning. The office is charged with enabling, assisting, and promoting on-campus housing for as many students as possible to maximize the on-campus living, learning experience. That's our first charge, our first mission. Secondly, the office exists and functions to provide unbiased, neutral information, resources, and referral services for students, faculty, and staff living off campus and for those seeking to live off campus. Neighborhood Relations and Safe Education advocates for the needs of off-campus students by providing appropriate referral for support and assistance on campus, and by building partnerships, relationships with off-campus apartment, property managers, leasing professionals, law enforcement, landlords, parents, neighborhood associations, and governmental agencies. Neighborhood Relations and Safe Education also fosters communication, positive relations among students, residents, and neighbors. Furthermore, the office encourages and supports effective civic engagement and community responsibility. Now, in terms of safety education, Neighborhood Relations and Safe Education provides alerts, awareness, and education to students to prevent, protect, respond, and recover from safety and security challenges off campus. And it works to maintain and improve student well-being. Our goals are to prevent, eliminate, reduce, and mitigate the state of homelessness for UCF students. Secondly, we seek to educate, teach, and remind students to be good neighbors and responsible tenants. And thirdly, our office assists, supports, empowers students to enroll, matriculate, and graduate so that they can become productive global citizens. This is essentially who we are. In terms of affordable housing in Central Florida, with a special focus upon impact upon college students, families, and others, students must determine first which type of off-campus housing is best. Is it conventional or unfurnished housing, or unconventional or furnished housing? There is an important distinction as to the rental or leasing cost is very considerable. Students and families need to be aware that typically furnished housing accommodations are least expensive than unfurnished. The added cost of furniture or furniture rental may prove to be a hardship or an extra burden for some students and families. Thus, when it comes to affordable housing in Central Florida, the key or operative word is affordable. This is a relative term, and it is defined differently based upon one's family income or student's financial aid package. For an example, within a 3 to 5 mile radius of campus, the average cost of a 1-1 or a single furnished apartment is approximately $1,197 per month. For a double